This morning's topic is transport documents and the importance and value of transport documents, particularly to the bank, but also relevant to the customer as well. You'll recall from the previous sessions that I've talked about the low risk characteristics of trade finance, which are captured in 6 S's. And the first of those is security. And by security, I mean, there are many types of security you can take in a transaction, in a banking transaction. But in a trade transaction, what we will do where possible is to look to use the goods as security. And that is what today's session is about. It's about using the goods as security. And how do we achieve that? We achieve that through transport documents. Shakboz?
Yes. Hammaga avvalambor assalomu alaykum. Bugun 4-chi o'sha seminarimizda o'tyapmiz. Savdoni moliyalashtirish bo'yicha va bugungi seminarimizda o'tadigan mavzuimiz o'sha transport hujjatlarini qiymati va ularning muhimligi, qanchalik muhimligi haqida gaplashib o'tamiz. Va o'sha transport xizmatlarini qanaqa qilib savdoni moliyalashtirish produktida ishlatishni o'rganamiz. Albatta o'tgan safargi seminarlarda gaplashib o'tganimizdaqangi qanaqa turib riskni kamaytirishni yo'llari va u uchun mana 6 ta bizni nimamiz bor, usullarimiz bor riskni kamaytirish uchun. Shu birinchisi xavfsizlik. Albatta, xavfsizlikda bank tranzaksiyalarida mahsulotlarni asosan masalan olib kelinayotgan mahsulotlarni xavfsizlik uchun ishlatamiz.
Yes. Okay, Shakboz. So when we're looking at goods as security, there's 2 aspects that we're going to focus upon. One is legal title to the goods. So in other words, ownerships or rights of ownership. And the second one is physically controlling the goods so that the goods are under the bank's control. So those are the 2 key aspects: legal ownership, title, and the second one is control, physical control of the goods. Shakboz?
Xavfsizlik jihatdan qaraganda biz 2 ta narsani bugun gaplashib o'tamiz va birinchisi bu o'sha ya'ni o'sha qonunchilik tomonidan, ikkinchisi bu o'sha fizikal boshqarish, ya'ni mahsulotlar bankni boshqaruvi ostida bo'lishi haqida gaplashib o'tamiz bugun o'sha xavfsizlik degan bo'limida. Yes, Roger.
So let's ask the question, why goods as security? Well, control of goods can provide a fundamental source of risk mitigant. So in other words, you may want to control the goods up until the point that somebody pays you or you have a commitment to pay. So controlling those goods on behalf of the customer or in the bank's interest is something that certainly mitigates risk in a trade transaction. Goods are the natural security for trade finance because most trade finance transactions involve a flow of goods. So why not use those to our advantage? And let's not forget that they are most likely the source of repayment in the trade transaction. That's another one of the 6 S's, self-liquidating, but these goods are going to be sold, or these raw materials are going to be used to manufacture goods. Ultimately, when the goods get sold, it's that cash flow that will repay any trade finance that we have created or given to the customer. So they're the natural and ready source of repayment. Shakboz?
Nimaga mahsulotlarni xavfsizlik uchun ishlatamiz degan savol berishimiz mumkin. Albatta buni birinchisi o'sha mahsulotlarni agar biz boshqara olsak bank sifatida o'shanda riskni anchagina kamaytirishimiz mumkin. Ya'ni berilgan moliyalashtirishni to'laguncha mahsulotlarni boshqarish huquqiga biz ega bo'lishimiz kerak bank sifatida va undan tashqari bu mahsulotlar savdoni moliyalashtirishda natural xavfsizlik hisoblanadi va undan tashqari o'sha self likvidatsiya, ya'ni o'zini o'zi likvidatsiya qilish uchun bu judayam tayyor va qayta to'lovni amalga oshirish uchun o'zini o'zi likvidatsiya qila oladigan instrument hisoblanadi mahsulotlar. Yes.
Thank you. So not only that, the Bank of International Settlements, or Basel, Basel guidelines as they're known, provide that lines that are fully secured by goods require less capital. So we covered this in previous session. Trade finance facilities are capital efficient. And one of the reasons that less capital is required is because those facilities, when they're secured by goods, are a lot less risky. So the regulators internationally and nationally follow these international guidelines, and in some cases, when you're doing trade transactions, the capital risk weighting can be as low as 20%, where the facilities or the transactions are supported by goods as security. Now, of course, less capital consumed by the bank is better because capital is a limited resource. Capital is the bank's shareholders' funds and retained earnings. There is only so much shareholders' funds and retained earnings. And so the bank will want to do as much business as possible with the capital that it has. And so it can do more trade finance business than other types of lending activity. And of course, this results in better returns. So, sorry, can I ask that everybody put their speakers on mute, because there's a lot of background noise, other than Shaqboz, of course. Yes, thank you. Okay, over to you, Shaqboz.
Iltimos hamma mikrofonni o'chirib qo'ysa bo'ladimi, chunki har xil ovozlar eshitilyapti, o'shanga chalg'ishlar bo'lyapti, o'shanga mikrofonni iltimos o'chirib qo'yinglar. Yes, we can continue, Roger, right now.
Okay, so do you want to cover the last part, second half of that slide?
Yes. Bazelni berilgan o'sha qoidalariga javob beradigan bo'lish kerak. Bu albatta mahsulotlarni biz xavfsizlik uchun ishlatayotgan paytimizda va bular quyidagilarni o'z ichiga oladi. Birinchisi, o'sha mahsulotlar to'liq xavfsizlashtirilgan bo'lishi kerak. Hamma narsa, ya'ni mahsulotlar xavfsiz bo'lgan bo'lishi kerak va undan tashqari agarda mahsulotlarni bank xavfsizlik uchun ishlatayotgan bo'lsa, riskni kamaytirish uchun ishlatayotgan bo'lsa, unda o'zini kapitali 20% kam ishlatish mumkin va albatta bank qachonki o'zini kapitalini kam ishlatsa, bu bank uchun juda ham yaxshi, chunki bu orqali bank ko'proq biznes tranzaksiyalarini yoki har xil boshqa biznes operatsiyalarni amalga oshirishi mumkin va albatta bu ko'p biznes operatsiyalarini amalga oshirish bu ko'proq yaxshi, ya'ni return, ya'ni yaxshi foydaga olib kelishi mumkin, chunki qancha bank ko'p biznes operatsiyalarni amalga oshirsa, bundan ko'proq foyda ham olishi mumkin o'sha kapitalni kam ishlatish orqali. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. So when we look at a trade transaction, we know that documents pass through the bank for documentary credits, LCs, and for documentary collections. What types of document are there? Well, there are many different types of document, but I've broken them down into 5 broad categories. The first one being transport documents, which is today's focus, and we'll go into that in some detail. The second category is commercial documents. So a good example of some commercial documents might be a invoice or a packing list or a wait list. Then we have official documents. These are documents issued by maybe a government department or a chamber of commerce, so some official capacity. So official documents. Then insurance documents. We know in a trade transaction that goods should be insured. Of course, if the bank has an interest in the goods as security, then the bank will insist that the goods are insured in some way. Just as when the bank lends money for a house, for a loan, for a mortgage, it will insist that the property is insured. The same principle applies to goods. If the bank has an interest in the goods, is using the goods as security, it will insist that the goods are insured. And we know that the Incoterm, international commercial term, determines who insures the goods, whether it's the buyer or the seller. And then the last category we have is financial, and things such as bills of exchange, drafts, promissory notes. Generally speaking, one of these documents is involved in a trade transaction. Not all the time, but most of the time. Shakboz?
Savdoda qanaqangi hujjatlarni ishlatamiz va bu hujjatlarning turlari har xil bo'ladi. Mana quyidagi hujjatlarni ishlatamiz. Bu birinchisi transport hujjatlari. Bugungi seminarimizda asosiy mavzusi ham bu transport hujjatlari haqida gaplashib o'tamiz. Va undan tashqari bizda savdo hujjatlari bo'lishi mumkin. Savdo hujjatlariga kiradi invoice yoki yuk mol hujjati, shunga o'xshagan hujjatlar kiradi. Va undan tashqari o'sha ofitsialniy, ya'ni hujjatlar bo'lishi mumkin. Bu aytaylik hukumatdan olingan har xil hujjatlar yoki savdo palatasidan olingan har xil hujjatlar bo'lishi mumkin. Va undan tashqari o'sha sug'urta uchun olingan hujjatlar yoki har xil sug'urta qog'ozlari, ya'ni mahsulotlar, har doim mahsulotlarni biz o'sha xavfsizlik uchun, garantiya uchun ishlatayotgan paytimizda bilishimiz kerak, to mahsulotlar sug'urtalangan bo'lishi kerak va mahsulotlarni sug'urtalangani albatta juda ham muhim va o'sha Incotermlarga konkretni javob bera olgan bo'lishi kerak. Kim tomonidan mahsulotlar sug'urtalanyapti, ularni ham ko'rib chiqilishi kerak. Sotib oluvchi yoki sotuvchi tomonidan, kim tomonidan qilinyapti. Va undan tashqari bizda moliyaviy hujjatlar ham mavjud bo'ladi. Bularga kirishi mumkin o'sha draftlar yoki har xil veksel hujjatlar kirishi mumkin. Yes.
So all of these documents have an important role to play, but if you had to single one category of document as having the most value from the bank's point of view, then you would have to say that the transport document is the most valuable. And we will now work through a case study, and I believe the case study will answer the questions as to why transport documents are so valuable from the bank's point of view. So that's the other thing I would say, is that if you ever have the opportunity to visit the trade operations area, the trade operations department, these are the documents that you will find in the department that are being handled on a daily basis. Shakboz?
Bugungi mavzuda o'sha transport hujjatlari bo'yicha biz gaplashib o'tamiz va keyingi nimalarimizda, slaydlarimizda o'sha har xil misollarni ko'rib o'tamiz va bu orqali transport hujjatlari, qanaqa transport hujjatlari mavjud va bu transport hujjatlari nima uchun bizga kerakligini ham albatta bilib o'tamiz. Va bu albatta agar o'sha savdo operatsiyalari bilan shug'ullanadigan bo'limlarda agar borish imkoniyatingiz agar bo'lgan bo'lsa, unda siz bemalol bu transport hujjatlaridan ular qanday foydalanayotganini ko'rib o'tishingiz mumkin. Shuning uchun keyingi slaydlarda biz transport hujjatlari nima uchun transport hujjatlarini biz savdoni moliyalashtirishda ishlatamiz va nima uchun transport hujjatlarini qiymati baland savdoni moliyalashtirishda shu haqida gaplashib o'tamiz. Yes, Raj.
So we're going to have a look at a case study. Let me put it on the screen. Hopefully it's there. It's disappeared on me. No, there it is. And this case study is in 3 parts. Let's focus on part 1 to start with. So, you are a newly appointed credit manager, and around 80% of the relationships or customers under your control have import-export facilities. Your mandate is to grow the portfolio by 25% in a 9-month period. Given the variety of trading customers in your portfolio and the various ways in which they transport goods, your colleagues in trade services operations handle many types of transport document. Your manager feels that you and your team should be aware of the relevance of these documents to bankers. Initially, you are puzzled as to why he is so concerned that you familiarize yourself with transport documents, but as you research the subject, their importance becomes apparent. So the first 2 questions are, why are transport documents so important from a banker's point of view? And the second question, list the principal types of transport document. So Shahbaz, I'll let you translate that, and then once you've completed the translation, we'll give people 5 minutes to answer those 2 questions. Thank you.
Okay, I will go over with it. So, birinchi misolimizda hozir tarjima qilib o'taman va uni savollar bor, savollarga javob berishinglar kerak bo'ladi. Tasavvur qilamiz, siz yangi kredit menejerisiz va taxminan 80% o'sha munosabatlar siz o'rnatadigan munosabatlar 80% o'sha import eksport qulayliklari bor mijozlar hisoblanadi. O'sha sizni mandatingizga berilgan o'sha portfelni 25% ga oshirish vazifasi sizga topshirilgan va bu 9 oyni tashkil etish kerak bo'lgan. Va 9 oy ichida siz o'sha portfelni 25% ga oshirishingiz kerak bo'lyapti. Va har xil savdoni amalga oshiradigan mijozlar ichida sizni o'sha kredit portfelingizdagi mijozlar ichida ko'pchiligi o'sha mahsulotlarni transport qiladi, ya'ni boshqa u yoqdan bu yoqqa import eksport bilan shug'ullanadi va savdo servislari bilan shug'ullanadi. Va sizni o'sha kollegalaringiz, ya'ni hamkasblaringiz o'sha savdo servis operatsiyalari bilan shug'ullanadigan hamkasblaringizda juda ham turli xildagi transport hujjatlari mavjud. Sizni menejeringiz so'rayapti, siz va sizni jamoangiz bu transport hujjatlaridan xabardor bo'lish kerak va bu transport hujjatlari bankirlarga qanaqangi aloqasi bor, o'shani bilishlaring kerak. Hozirgi paytda siz boshingiz qotgan ozgina va nimaga o'sha menejeringiz so'rayapti, siz do'stsiz bu transport hujjatlari bilan tanishib chiqishingiz kerak. Lekin siz o'sha qancha bu hujjatlarni o'rganishni boshlaganingiz sari bu transport hujjatlarini qanchalik muhimligini siz bilib boryapsiz. Va sizdan hozir bu yerda so'ralyapti, nima uchun transport hujjatlari bankirlarni o'ylashi bo'yicha muhim va undan tashqari va asosiy qanaqangi transport hujjatlari mavjud, o'shalarni aytib o'tishingiz sizdan so'ralyapti. Agar javoblaring bo'lsa, bemalol chatga yozishlaring mumkin yoki aytishlaring mumkin. Farqi yo'q, qaysi tilda, ruscha, o'zbekcha, inglizcha bo'lsa inglizcha. So Roger, I've translated that right now.
Thank you. So 5 minutes. and then we'll go over it together.
Okay. 5 minut vaqt beramiz o'ylab ko'rishlaring uchun. Agar har xil savollaring bo'lsa, agar meni qaytarishimni xohlasanglar, bir ikkita joylarni, tushunmay qolgan joylarni qaytarib o'taman.
Mr. Chachalan'ı nima deydi Mr. Chachalan?
Sizni yaxshi eshitmayapmiz. Assalomu alaykum. So Roger, as you can see that we got a couple of responses from our members who are actually from our colleagues. So let me actually translate the first answer. The second answer has been provided in English. That's why you can read it as well. Okay, so you can find the answers in the chat. So the first answer is being actually said that. So the importance of the transport documents are the goods should be shipped in the on time and without any delays and without any harms. So that's why the importance of the transport documents that are important. So the second answer that you can see that because when you make the documentary operations, you need confirmation that goods was shipped to the applicant. Therefore, we need the transport document. So we got two answers right now from our colleagues. So let me ask from the other colleagues that maybe they have any ideas on the topic.
Other ideas, yeah, indeed. Thank you.
Agar qanaqadir javoblaring bo'lsa, bemalol javob berishlaring mumkin, chatga yozishlaring mumkin yoki agar qo'l ko'tarsanglar, anaqa javob berishlaring mumkin, gapirib. Aka, ovozingiz uncha yaxshi eshitilmayapti. Menimcha xonangizda shum bormi deymanda, o'shanga uncha nima deganingizni bilmayapmiz. Agar iloji bo'lsa chatga yozishingiz mumkin. Chap tomonida mana bu more deb yozib qo'yilgan Zoomda, o'shani bossangiz chat chiqadi. Chatda bemalol yozishingiz mumkin agar javob.
Okay, well, while we are waiting to see if there are any more ideas, let's just go over what I have. So, firstly, a feel for the transaction, which I think is the point that the first answer you gave me addressed that we have a lot of information regarding the underlying transaction from the transport documents. We know when the goods are shipped. We have a brief description of the goods. We know where the goods are coming from, where they're going to. We know who the notify party is, so the importer. We may know who the exporter is as well. So we have a lot of information about the underlying transaction from the transport document, which is very useful from the bank's perspective. The bank can see what it's financing. It can understand the specific transaction and see what it is, how it is supporting the customer. So that's the first one. The second one, I think, again, your colleagues highlighted this one, and this is a very important one, that it provides evidence of shipment. The transport document will provide evidence and third-party evidence that the goods have been shipped. So somebody, a transport company or a shipping company or an airline, has received the goods and is shipping the goods. So we're not just taking the exporter's word for it. We're not just taking the importer's word for it. We have something from a third party, which is, again, a great comfort to the bank to know that the goods have actually been shipped. And that statement being made by a third party. Now, the other one are the two things that are the things that I highlighted at the beginning of the session. Certain transport documents can give us control over the goods. Physical control over the goods means that the goods are under the bank's control. Not all transport documents, but some transport documents. We'll look at that in more detail. And some transport documents may be documents of title. And documents of title give the bank legal rights over the goods. In order to meet this requirement, the document needs to be endorsed to the bank or endorsed in blank. So bills of lading, for example, when they are issued, they're issued to the shipper's order, the shipper being the exporter, not the shipping company, but the shipper is the exporter. And bills of lading are issued to the order of shipper. So the document requires endorsement for it to be then passed on to the next party. So it could be endorsed to the bank, or it could be endorsed in blank. In blank means it's freely negotiable. And you would need a full set of controlling documents. Generally speaking, bills of lading are issued in sets of 3. In order to have a full set or to control the goods, you would need to have a full set of original documents. So that's what I have. Shahbaz, are there any more suggestions from your colleagues, or if not, you can just run through that quickly.
Okay, so we got a couple of comments from our colleagues. So the first one, as you can see that they've been actually providing English as well. I'll just read through it. So another suggestion is if the goods shipped by air, we need air bill. If the railway, then railway bill. If on earth transportation, then we need CMR. If goods shipped more than by two transport, then we need multimodal bill of lading. So yeah, this is the type that we're going to be actually covering in the upcoming slides. Did you know that?
Yes. Yes.
So another we got answer that the importance of transport documents for bankers is related to transport risks, and he is actually answering this question as well. So yeah, like some of our colleagues, they've actually covered already the slides that were actually coming through as well. So let me actually go through the points that you've mentioned, okay?
Yes.
Transport hujjatlarini endi bu berilgan case study uchun, ya'ni berilgan misol uchun o'zimizda javoblarimiz bor. O'sha slaydda berilgan javoblarni sizlarga aytib o'taman. Birinchisi o'sha ya'ni feel for the transaction, ya'ni qilayotgan tranzaksiyamizni o'zimiz his etish, ya'ni o'sha qanaqangi tranzaksiya qilayotgan bo'lsak, o'sha tranzaksiyani birinchi bilib, hamma narsasini o'rganib qilish. Chunki transport hujjatlarida biz ko'p ma'lumotlarni o'z ichiga oladi va bulardan o'sha mahsulotlar qayerdan kelyapti, qayerga ketyapti, kim eksportyor, kim importyor, buni hammasini bilishimiz mumkin va bank albatta shaffoflik bilan ko'rishi mumkin o'sha moliyalashtirish nimani moliyalashtiryapti va hamma berilayotgan o'sha moliyalashtirish qayerga ketayotganligini bemalol ko'rib turish mumkin va undan tashqari jo'natilganligi to'g'risidagi dalil, ya'ni qanaqadir mahsulotlar jo'natilyapti eksportyor tomonidan va biz bu informatsiyani nafaqat eksportyor yoki importyor o'zidan, balki o'sha transport hujjatlaridan ko'rib olishimiz mumkin va ishonch hosil qilishimiz uchun mumkin. Va ya'ni hech qanaqa eksportyor yoki importyordan ma'lumot so'rab o'tirishimiz shart emas. Agar so'ragan taqdirimizda ham transport hujjatlari orqali bemalol tasdiqlab olishimiz mumkin. Va undan tashqari o'sha bankda shunaqangi imtiyoz bo'ladiki, mahsulotlarni boshqarish imtiyozi bo'ladi va undan tashqari mulk huquqi to'g'risidagi hujjatlar, masalan bank tomonidan tasdiqlangan hujjatlar va to'liq ravishdagi boshqarish hujjatlarini o'z ichiga oladi. Bu shu hujjatlarni shu qismlarni o'z ichiga oladi. Yes, sorry.
Right. So the second part of the question was some of the most common types of transport document, which you've already started to address. So marine or ocean bill of lading is probably one that everybody would know of. A marine or ocean bill of lading covers port to port shipments. So in the case of Uzbekistan, you're a landlocked country, so you probably don't have too many marine or ocean bills of lading as transport documents for goods coming in or out of Uzbekistan. You're more likely to have the multimodal transport document, the third one on the list, which covers transportation by more than one mode of transport, where there may be transportation by road or rail and then also by ship. So that is a common type of transport document, especially for containerized shipments. So that's number 3. The second one there, charter party bill of lading. A charter party is where somebody charters a vessel. Another word for charter is hire a vessel, like you hire a car, you can hire a vessel. It may be for a single voyage or it may be for a period of time. We see these for large bulk cargoes. So where somebody has a lot of goods to transport, it makes sense to charter an entire vessel, or it may make sense to charter an entire vessel. Then we have the waybills, the sea and air waybills, abbreviated to AWB and SWB. Airway bill is far more common than seaway bill. We don't often see seaway bills, but they do exist. But airway bill, if your goods are being transported by air, then it will be using an airway bill. Then we have freight forwarders receipts, and we'll cover that in a bit more detail in a moment as to the role of freight forwarders in the supply chain, in the physical supply chain. And then a special category of freight forwarder known as FIATA. FIATA is an association, international association of freight forwarders. I think everybody has heard of IATA for airlines. Well, FIATA is the international equivalent association for freight forwarders. And then the last one we have listed are road and rail receipts, where goods are just being trucked inland, perhaps domestically, or could be cross-border, but quite possibly just domestically. So these are some of the most common types. It's not all transport documents listed here, but certainly some of the more common ones. Shahboz?
Okay. Asosiy turdagi transport hujjatlari quyidagi hujjatlar kiradi va bularga kirishi mumkin. Birinchisi o'sha dengiz yoki okean orqali keladigan o'sha mol-mulkka qo'shilgan hujjatlar. Asosan O'zbekistonda bunaqangi hujjatlar ko'pincha ishlatilmaydi, chunki O'zbekiston o'sha okeanga yoki katta dengizlarga yaqin, geografik jihatdan yaqin joylashmagan. Asosan O'zbekistonda o'sha multimodal turdagi hujjatlar ishlatiladi. Ko'pincha konteynerda keladigan mulklarda yoki mahsulotlarda va undan tashqari o'sha ya'ni transport kompaniyalari tomonidan jo'natiladigan o'sha mol-mulkka qo'shilgan hujjatlar, har xil kargolardan keladigan hujjatlar, ya'ni asosan bu turdagi tranzaksiyalar amalga oshiradi yoki bu turdagi yuklar jo'natiladi. Qachonki mahsulotlar juda ham ko'p bo'lsa, transport qilishga mahsulotlar juda ham ko'p bo'lsa va undan tashqari o'sha aytib o'tganimizdek multimodal turdagi transportlar, ya'ni ikki yoki har xil turdagi transportlar, ya'ni transport turdagi hujjatlar bo'lishi mumkin. Aytaylik, mahsulotlar birinchi o'sha okeandan jo'natilgan, keyin okeandan keyin poyezd yoki ya'ni temir yo'l yoki o'sha har xil yer usti transporti orqali jo'natilgan va undan tashqari o'sha dengiz yoki havodan keladigan yukka qo'shilgan hujjatlar bo'lishi mumkin. Ya'ni seaway bill, ya'ni airway bill deyiladi bu narsalar. Ya'ni agar dengiz orqali keladigan yukka qo'shilgan hujjatlar bo'lsa, ishlatiladi AWB. Agarda dengiz orqali keladigan hujjatlar bo'lsa, unga ishlatiladi SWB. Shu abbreviaturalar ishlatiladi va undan tashqari bizda bor o'sha ekspeditorlik kvitantsiyasi bo'lishi mumkin va FIATA ekspeditorlik kvitantsiyasi bo'lishi mumkin. Bunga o'sha ekspeditorlik shunaqangi organizatsiya bor, bu FIATA deb nomlanadi. Va undan tashqari yo'l yoki o'sha temir yo'l kvitantsiyalari bizga o'sha asosiy turdagi transport hujjatlariga kiradi. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. All right, so that covers the first two questions. Any questions from anybody at this stage?
Bu hozir ikkinchi savolga biz javob berdik. O'sha misolimizdagi agar qanaqadir savollaring bo'lsa, shu paytgacha bemalol berishlaring mumkin yoki chatga yozishlaring mumkin.
If not, we'll move on to part two. So a few weeks have elapsed since you were requested to familiarize yourself with transport documents. One of your credit officers is in the process of setting up an enhanced facility for Alpha Beta Trading, which has been a customer for the past 6 years. Changes in their trading pattern have resulted in a change in transport document from a marine bill of lading to a combined transport bill of lading, also known as a multimodal transport document. This is a matter of concern to your officer, who poses the following questions to you. What are the functions of a marine bill of lading? And does this document differ from an ocean or liner bill of lading? B, the word negotiable is frequently used in conjunction with a bill of lading. What does this mean? C, how does a combined transport document differ from a bill of lading? Is it true that whilst the bill of lading has been used for centuries, the combined transport document is of relatively recent origin? D, how does a Seaway bill differ from a traditional bill of lading? And E, if a Seaway bill rather than a combined transport document were used, would the bank wish to consider amending facility conditions? So we have 5 questions there. You'll need at least probably 2 minutes for each question. And obviously, Shakboz, you need to assist with the translation. So once you finish the translation, we'll give everybody up to 10 minutes to work through those questions.
Okay. Xo'p, endi o'sha case study, ya'ni misolimizda ikkinchi qismiga o'tamiz. Ozgina haftalar o'tdi, ya'ni ozgina muddat o'tgandan keyin o'sha ya'ni transport siz o'sha ya'ni hali ham o'sha kredit menejeri sifatida ishlayapsiz va transport hujjatlari bilan tanishib chiqdingiz ozgina vaqt o'tganingizdan keyin va Alfa Beta Trading kompaniyasi o'sha sizni bir ishchilaringizdan bittasi o'sha Alfa Beta Trading kompaniyasini ya'ni sizlar bilan ishlayotgan 6 yildan beri ishlayotgan Alfa Beta Trading kompaniyasini qulayliklarini ko'rib chiqdi va shuni ya'ni zametib qoldiki, ya'ni e'tiborga olib qoldiki, o'sha o'zgartirishlar kiritilgan ularni savdo qismida, ya'ni o'sha savdoda o'zgartirishlar kiritilganiga qarab ularni transport hujjatlari o'zgartirilgan, o'sha ya'ni marine bill of lading, ya'ni dengiz orqali yukka qo'shilgan hujjatdan birlashtirilgan transport hujjatiga o'zgartirilgan va bu shu boisdan sizni o'sha ishchingiz quyidagi savollarni sizdan so'rayapti. Ya'ni siz kredit menejersiz va sizdan quyidagi savollarni so'rayapti. Va so'rayaptiki, o'sha marine bill of lading, ya'ni dengiz hujjatlari, ya'ni dengizdagi yukka qo'shilgan hujjatni funksiyalari qanaqa va bu hujjatni okean yoki layner yukka qo'shilgan hujjatda nima farqi bor? Va undan tashqari ikkinchi savoli va negotiable, ya'ni o'sha ya'ni kelishiladigan degan so'z ko'p ishlatilgan o'sha berilgan yukka qo'shilgan hujjatda va bu so'zning ma'nosi nima deb so'rayapti. Va undan tashqari o'sha birlashtirilgan transport hujjatini oddiy yukka qo'shilgan hujjatdan nima farqi bor? Va bundan tashqari so'rashyaptiki, o'sha yukka qo'shilgan hujjat necha asrlardan beri ishlatilyapti va birlashtirilgan transport hujjati bu juda ham yangi hujjat deyapti. Shu rostmi deb sizdan so'rayapti. Va undan tashqari o'sha dengiz orqali keladigan yukka qo'shilgan hujjatni oddiy yukka qo'shilgan hujjatdan nima farqi bor va qanaqangi farqi bor deb so'rayapti. Va oxirgi savol agarda dengiz orqali keladi, yukka qo'shilgan hujjat ishlatilganda o'sha birlashtirilgan transport hujjatidan ko'ra bank amending anaqasini qulayliklarini ko'rib chiqishi rostmi? Agar shunaqa qilinganda ko'rib chiqardimi deb so'rayapti. Quyidagi savollarni sizni o'sha ishchingiz, ya'ni o'sha berilgan qulayliklarga qandaydir bank o'zgartirish kiritmoqchimi deb so'rayapti oxirgi savolda. Quyidagi savollar, agar ichidagini birortasini qaytarishni xohlasanglar bemalol so'rashlaring mumkin yoki chatga yozishlaring mumkin. 10 minut vaqtimiz bor javob berishga. Agar javoblaring bo'lsa bemalol chatga yozing. So I've translated right now, Roger. So we're going to be waiting 10 more minutes, okay? So for the colleagues to answer the questions.
Right, thank you.
Bemalol javoblarini berishlaring mumkin. Agar qanaqadir chatga yozaveringlar javoblaringni. Hozir 10 minutdan keyin hamma javoblarni o'qib o'tamiz.
Okay, one more minute and then we'll go over it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go over it, Shahbaz. I'll go through the suggested answers, and then we can see if people have any comments or questions or additional information. So,
Okay.
first of all, what are the functions? Sorry, can people please put their mics on mute? Thank you. So the first question is, what are the functions of a marine bill of lading, and does this document differ from an ocean or liner bill of lading? So the second part of the question first, does the document differ from an ocean or liner bill of lading? And the simple answer is no. The fact is that shipping companies just use different titles or different names for the documents that they issue, but they're all bills of lading. And whether it's a marine, ocean or liner bill of lading, they all serve the same purpose. So what are the functions of a marine bill of lading? There are three primary functions of a bill of lading. The first one being a receipt for the goods. So naturally, when you hand your goods over to a shipping company, they will issue you a receipt for those goods, and that receipt is the bill of lading, a receipt for the goods shipped. Secondly, a contract of carriage, an agreement to carry the goods from point A to point B, or from point A to point D, wherever the seller wants the goods transported to. So it's a contract of carriage, and all of that detail appears on the reverse side of the bill of lading, standard terms and conditions, and the contract, the agreement to carry the goods. So that's the contract of carriage, the second function. But the third function is probably the one that is of most interest to bankers. And the third one is that a marine bill of lading is a document of title. So in other words, the holder of the document has rights to the underlying goods. It is a document of title. So this can be very valuable from the bank's point of view. If we hold a full set of negotiable bills of lading, it means that the bank then has control over the underlying goods. So the three functions of a bill of lading, just to summarize, are a receipt for the goods, a contract of carriage, and a document of title. Shahbaz?
Yes, give me a second. So, Roger, have you actually checked up the chat that some of our colleagues, they've actually answered to the questions? Let me actually go through with them first. After that, I will actually translate all the points that you've mentioned, okay? So we've got like some of the answers, a couple of answers for, so the answer to your first question, it was actually said that marine bill of lading means that the general bill of lading issued by captain of liner. So the second answer for answer B, I mean the question B is negotiable means that documents can be given when the full set of documents and negotiable by another part. So question number C, the answer is
sorry,
Shahbaz,
Shahbaz, sorry, we're only doing question A to start with.
So, okay, no
We'll
problem.
go one question at a time if that's okay.
Okay. So, what are your kind of reactions to the answer that has been provided by the colleague? If it is possible, that'd be fine. That you can actually give some comments on it, and after that, I will go through the right answer.
Okay. So I think the first question, I think they've missed the point of what the function of a bill of lading is. It doesn't seem to, I only see a couple of answers here, but they don't seem to have addressed that it's a receipt for the goods shipped, a contract of carriage, and a document of title. I don't see that anywhere.
Okay, so right now, I will actually go through the right answers that
Question A.
has been provided by you.
Just question A.
Okay. Birinchisi savol berilganda o'sha marin, ya'ni dengiz orqali keladigan mol mulkka qo'shilgan hujjatlarni funksiyalari qanaqa va ularni nima farqi bor, okean yoki layner yukka qo'shilgan hujjatlardan degan savol berilgandi va bunga javob bo'lyapti. Bizda o'sha dengiz orqali keladigan yuklarni 3 ta funksiyasi bor. Bulardan birinchisi o'sha beriladigan tovarlar uchun kvitansiya va undan tashqari ikkinchisi bu o'sha tashish shartnomasi, ya'ni mahsulotlarni o'sha tashishga bo'lgan qanaqadir shartnomalar va undan tashqari o'sha ya'ni aytiladi bizda o'sha title documents deb aytiladi va buni nimasi mol-mulk huquqi to'g'risidagi hujjatlar asosiy funksiyalari deb hisoblanyapti bunda. Yes, right.
Thank you. So we just go through one question at a time. I think it's easier. So the word negotiable is frequently used in conjunction with a bill of lading. What does this mean? Well, we've identified the bill of lading is a document of title, but in order for it to be transferable from one party to the next, it needs to be in negotiable form. So in other words, it needs to be endorsed, because when the bill of lading is issued to the shipper's order, the shipper being the exporter, it is to his order, and he still controls the document and the title to the goods because it's to his order. He needs to endorse the bill of lading to make it negotiable, and then it can pass from one party to the next, and title will pass with the document from one party to the next. So it's very similar to a check. Sometimes you have checks written out in the name of a payee, and then the payee will endorse the check and can pass it on to somebody else. It's a negotiable instrument. It means it can pass from one party to the next, and ownership passes from one party to the next. So that is why we refer to bills of lading being in negotiable form, so that the title to the goods can pass from one party to the next, including the bank. Okay, Shakboz?
Okay, I'll go through the answer. So negotiable, ya'ni ikkinchi savolimizda o'sha negotiable, ya'ni aytaylik kelishiladigan yoki bir-biridan o'tadigan so'z ishlatilgan o'sha berilgan yukka qo'shilgan hujjatda buni ma'nosi nima degan ma'noni savoli so'ralgandi va buni javobi bo'lyaptiki, o'sha mahsulotlarni jo'natuvchi, ya'ni eksportyor o'sha bu albatta oddiy chekka o'xshagan hujjat bo'ladi va unga o'sha eksportyor qo'l qo'yish kerak bo'ladi va bu birinchisidan ikkinchisiga o'tadi, ya'ni aytaylik qo'ldan qo'lga o'tadi, ya'ni eksportyordan o'sha mahsulotlarni jo'natuvchiga o'tadi va o'shaning uchun bu negotiable so'zi, ya'ni bir-biriga o'tadigan deb ishlatilyapti. Yes, for.
Thank you. So question 3, how does a combined transport differ from a bill of lading? Bill of lading has been around for centuries, but the combined transport document is of relatively recent origin.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Roger. So some noise are being made by your side, if I'm not mistaken, in your headphone or maybe from your computer, if I'm not mistaken, or not. I don't know. The rest of the people are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't done
you also
anything
hear, right?
different.
So the
Yes.
noise is being
I haven't
made.
done anything different since the start. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Right
Is
now it's
everybody
all
else
right.
on?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right now it's all right, but yes, yeah, right now it's okay.
Okay. Now I'm just hearing some workmen starting up. I'm afraid not much I can do about that. So we just have to press on. Is everybody on mute, Amrita?
Yes, Roger. Yeah.
Thank you. So the combined transport document, how does it differ from a bill of lading? Well, a combined transport document can be thought of in terms of an extended bill of lading, because a combined transport document, also known as a multimodal transport document, covers more than one mode of transport. So it covers the inland transportation as well as the marine leg, the shipping leg. So we have maybe shipment on a railroad followed by a marine shipment on a boat, on a ship, and then we have maybe shipment at the end on a truck. So that is a combined or multimodal transport document. So it covers the entire journey, including the inland transportation. It has the same functions as a bill of lading. So the bill of lading has been around for centuries, but the combined transport document is of relatively recent origin. That is because the combined transport document or multimodal transport document is generally used for containerized shipments. Okay, Shakboz?
Bizni uchinchi savolimiz bo'lganda, uchinchi savolimizda aytilgan o'sha birlashtirilgan transport hujjatini va farqi bor oddiy yukka qo'shilgan hujjatdan degan savol berilganda, buni asosiy javobi bo'lyapti o'sha combined transport document, ya'ni birlashtirilgan transport hujjati. Boshqa chaqib aytganda bu multimodal transport hujjati hisoblanadi va bunda aytishimiz mumkinki, yer usti va dengiz yoki temir yo'l yoki daryo yoki dengiz yoki okean orqali tashilgan hujjatlarni hammasi hujjatlar birga qo'shilgan bo'ladi. O'shaning uchun bu birlashtirilgan hujjat yoki multimodal hujjatlar hisoblanadi. Ya'ni aytishimiz mumkinki, mahsulotlar birinchi dengizda, keyin undan keyin yuk mashinalarida yoki temir yo'ldan foydalanib mahsulotlarni yetkazib berish mumkin. Funksiyasi oddiy yukka qo'shilgan hujjat bilan bir xil funksiyani amalga oshiradi, lekin yaqindan beri ishlatilgani uchun, ya'ni har xil turlarda mahsulotlar yetkazib berilayotgan paytida har xil turdagi transport usullarini foydalangani uchun bu o'sha multimodal yoki combined transport hujjati deb hisoblanadi. Yes, Roger.
Thank you, Shakboz. Question D, how does a seaway bill differ from a traditional bill of lading? Well, the three functions of a bill of lading were receipt for the goods, contract of carriage, and document of title. Unfortunately, a seaway bill is not a document of title. So it only fulfills the first two functions, not the document of title. And then going on to the last question, if a seaway bill rather than a combined transport document were used, would the bank wish to consider amending facility conditions? The short answer to that question is maybe. Bear in mind, a way bill is not a document of title. However, what the bank will look to do is still control the goods. So even where the bank cannot have legal title, the bank will try and control the goods. And the way in which the bank will control the goods is by consigning the goods to another bank. In other words, the exporter will nominate as the consignee in the way bill, in the airway bill or the seaway bill, will nominate the issuing bank of the LC as the consignee in the way bill. That means that the goods will only be delivered after the bank who is named as consignee gives its permission to release the goods to the importer. So you can still control the goods with a way bill by consigning the goods to a bank. Shakboz, I hope that's clear.
Yes. Oxirgi ikkita savolga javob beramiz. Birinchi savolimiz o'sha dengizdagi yo'l varaqasini farqi nimada? Yukka qo'shilgan hujjatdan degan savol bo'lgandi. Bunga oddiy qilib javob berganda, yukka qo'shilgan dengizdagi yo'l varaqasi bu hech qanaqangi mol mulk egaligi uchun hujjat bo'la olmaydi. Ya'ni o'sha uchta bizni nimamiz funksiyamiz bor edi. Ya'ni bu birinchisi tovarlar uchun kvitansiya, tashish shartnomasi va sarlavha hujjati funksiyalariga hech qanaqa javob bera olmaydi. O'shaning uchun buni asosiy farqi bu hujjat emas. Bill of lading, ya'ni yukka mol mulkka qo'shilgan hujjat bu shu uchta tamoyillarga javob bera oladi. Va oxirgi savolimiz, agarda dengiz yo'l varaqasi ishlatilganda o'sha birlashtirilgan transport hujjatidan ko'ra agar bank o'zgartirish yo'llarini ko'rardim, bank qanaqadir qulayliklarni o'zgartirardimi degan savol bo'lyapti. Balki o'zgartirishi mumkin, lekin ya'ni o'sha inobatga olishimiz kerak, yo'l varaqasi bu mol mulk egaligi uchun hujjat emas. Yes, Roger. You're on mute, Roger.
Yes. Any questions on that? Because that's an important point where the bank can still control the goods even though it doesn't have title to the underlying goods by consignment of the airway bill. Hope that's clear for everybody.
Agar qanaqadir savollaring bo'lsa, savollarni bemalol berishlaring mumkin. Hozir shu paytgacha aytib o'tilgan narsalar bo'yicha agar savollaring bo'lsa.
Thanks. So part 3. So we have a new customer. The company is involved in importing raw materials from various sources and manufacturing finished products in your country and exporting to various markets. For reasons as yet known to the customer only, they prefer to use a freight forwarder. We want to win this business badly. However, your credit officer is not altogether happy with the choice of transport document, being a freight forwarder's certificate. When consignments are required urgently, Gamma uses air transport, and the transport document is an airway bill. You advise your credit officer that goods under an airway bill are normally consigned to the bank, covering what we just discussed. So the questions, 3 questions. Why is Gamma using freight forwarders? Do you have any concerns? Question 2, are transport documents issued by some freight forwarders more acceptable than those issued by others? If yes, please explain why. And question 3, why do our DCs or LCs call for clean BLs, full set, and what is meant by on board? Okay, Shakboz, over to you.
Yes. So let me go through with this. Uchinchi savolimiz, ya'ni uchinchi misolimiz bu Gamma April yangi mijoz. Bu kompaniya import qiladi har xil materiallar o'zining biznesi uchun va ishlab chiqaryapti o'sha tayyor mahsulot sizni davlatingizda va har xil bozorlarga eksport qilyapti. Ma'lum bir sabablarga ko'ra bu mijoz ekspeditor ishlatmoqchi mahsulotlarni eksport qilish uchun, ya'ni uchinchi odam. bu biznesni albatta o'sha bizni bank yutish xohlayapti, bu biznes bilan ishlashni xohlayapti, lekin o'sha kredit ofitserlar, ya'ni kredit bilan shug'ullanadigan odamlar bizni bankimizdagi ko'p hammasi bu transport hujjatidan ko'ngli to'lmagan va bu narsalar ma'lum bo'ldiki, bizga o'sha gamma, ya'ni bizni mijozimiz havo transportini ishlatishga qaror qildi va transport hujjatlari bizda o'sha AWB, ya'ni havo bilan keladigan hujjatlar, yukka qo'shilgan hujjatlar, havo yo'l varaqasi bo'ladigan bo'ldi. Va biz o'sha kredit ofitserimizga aytdikki, то что mahsulotlar, ya'ni bizni bankka keladigan mahsulotlar, ya'ni Airwaybill, AWB, havo yo'l varaqasi har doim bankka topshiriladi deb aytib o'tdik. Va bizdan so'raladigan narsa bitta savollarimiz, birinchisi, nima uchun Gamma ekspeditorlik xizmatini ishlatyapti? Qanaqadir bu haqida qanaqadir taxminlaringiz bor? Va transport hujjati, o'sha ekspeditor tomonidan ishlatadigan transport hujjatlari ko'pincha qabul qilinadimi bank tomonidan? Agar boshqa narsalar, boshqa tomondan ishlab chiqarilgan hujjatlarga qaraganda, agar javobingiz ha bo'lsa, nimagaligini tushuntirib bering. Va uchinchi savolimiz, nima uchun o'sha bizni akkreditivlarimiz, ya'ni aytilyaptiki, toza va ya'ni clean va yukka qo'shilgan hujjatlarimiz full set, ya'ni to'liq hujjatlar hisoblanyapti. On board, ya'ni o'sha bortda degan so'zni ma'nosi nima deb uchta savol so'rashdi. Agar qanaqadir javob bo'lsa, bemalol javoblarni chatga yozishingiz mumkin. Agar savolni tushunmay qolgan bo'lsanglar, biron nima so'ramoqchi bo'lsanglar, bemalol savolni so'rashinglar mumkin yoki chatga yozishinglar mumkin. Qaytarib o'taman. Yes, Roger, I've translated that. Like, how many minutes we're going to give to the people to translate or to actually analyze and answer to the questions?
I think 5 minutes should be enough.
Five is fine, right? 5 minut vaqtlaring bor, 5 minut ichida bemalol o'ylab savollarga javob berishlaydi. Chatga yozishlar mumkin. All right, so I've actually told them, so let's wait 5 more minutes.
Thank you. Okay, one more minute and then we'll go over it.
Okay.
Okay, so before we can answer the first question, why is the customer using freight forwarder? Let's have a look at the role of a freight forwarder in a transaction, and then it becomes easier to understand. We can see here that an exporter needs to ship some goods. So in this case, the exporter is going to hand his goods over to a freight forwarder, as opposed to handing them over directly to a shipping company. He's using the services of a freight forwarder. In return for handing his goods over to the exporter, step one. Step two is the freight forwarder will issue a receipt to the exporter. Then, step three, the freight forwarder consolidates the goods and hands them over to the shipping company. And then the shipping company issues the bill of lading as it would normally. But in this case, the bill of lading is not going to the exporter, it's going to the freight forwarder. So I'll just stop there, Shakboz, and let you go up to step number 4.
Okay. Nima uchun mijozimiz ekspeditor ishlatyapti? Ekspeditorning vazifasi nimada bizda? Slaydda ko'rib turibsizlar, ekspeditorning asosiy vazifasi bu birinchi etap hozir gaplashib o'tamiz bu haqida. Birinchisi o'sha mahsulotlar ekspeditorga berilyapti, ekspeditor oladida va uni o'sha eksportyorga sertifikatini beradi. Va undan keyingi qismimiz bizni o'sha uchinchi qismimiz, ya'ni o'sha mahsulotlarni jo'natadigan kompaniya, ya'ni balki bu daryo, dengiz orqali yoki kema yoki boshqa usuli bo'lishi mumkin. O'shanga ya'ni mahsulotlarni jo'natadigan transport kompaniyasiga beramiz va transport kompaniyasi bizga o'sha mol-mulk bilan keladigan hujjatni chiqarib ekspeditorga beradi. Yes, Roger, you can continue now.
So just as in any trade transaction, the documents need to find their way from the export side to the import side. So the bill of lading has to pass from the freight forwarder to another freight forwarder, but a freight forwarder on the import side. Now, that could be his own same company if he's a big international freight forwarder, but if he's just a small one-man band freight forwarder, he will have to appoint a freight forwarder in the import country. So that's step 5. Step 6, our customer will have to pass his documents to the importer, and that will depend on the payment method, whether they pass through the bank or do not pass through the bank. If it's a documentary credit or a documentary collection, the documents will pass through the banking system. Otherwise, they will just go directly to the importer via courier or via mail. So then we have a situation when the goods arrive in the import country. Step 7, the freight forwarder will present the bill of lading to the shipping company to clear the goods. They will receive the goods from the shipping company at step 8. They will deconsolidate. And then the last 2 steps, 9 and 10, the importer will hand over his certificate to the freight forwarder, and the freight forwarder will release the goods to the importer. Shakboz?
Undan keyingi nimamiz, etapimiz bu o'sha ekspeditor importyor tomonda turgan ekspeditorga nimasini hujjatlarni beradi, ya'ni mol mulkka qo'shilgan hujjatlarni beradi. Undan keyin 5-chi etapdan keyin importyor kerakli hujjatlarni hammasini eksportyor kerakli hujjatlarni hammasini olib importyorga beradi va importyor hujjatlarni olganidan keyin 7-chi etapda undan keyingi bo'ladigan ish bu ekspeditor o'sha olingan hujjatlarga qarab, ya'ni mol mulkka qo'shilgan yukki hujjatni chiqarib va aniq transport kompaniyasiga beradi. 7-chi etapda transport kompaniyasiga yetkazib berilgandan keyin transport kompaniyasi 8-chi etapda mahsulotlarni bu importyor tomonidan turgan ekspeditorga beradi va u ekspeditor va undan keyin importyor o'sha o'zidagi hujjatlarni, ya'ni eksportyordan olgan hujjatlarni olib turib ekspeditorga beradi. Ekspeditor 10-chi etapda hamma mahsulotlarni importyorga topshiradi. Yes, Roger.
Okay, so the reasons why a customer may use a freight forwarder, well, first of all, we can see that a freight forwarder adds an extra layer on either side, on the import side and on the export side. Now, the reasons a customer may use a freight forwarder is because of cost. Quite likely the freight forwarder will be cheaper to use than going directly to the shipping company. The freight forwarder may be doing a lot of business with the shipping company, so gets favorable rates because of the amount of business that he gives to the shipping company. Also convenience in using a freight forwarder and allowing the freight forwarder to do all of the booking of the vessel, etc. So it's a convenience factor also. So they're probably the main reasons why a customer would use the services of a freight forwarder. Check boss.
Keyingi savolimiz nimaga mijoz ekspeditorlik xizmatini ishlatish mumkin? Buni asosiy sabablardan biri birinchisi narxi kamroq bo'ladi, ya'ni ko'p xarajat qilmaydi va undan tashqari keyingi sabablardan biri bu juda ham qulay hisoblanadi, chunki har xil ishlarga har xil nimani transport xizmati bilan qanaqadir gaplashish yoki transport xizmatini zakaz qilish yoki boshqa shunga o'xshagan ishlarni bajarmaydi importyor yoki eksportyor yoki mijoz. O'shaning uchun asosan nimani qiladigan ishi mijozlar nima uchun ekspeditorlik xizmatini ishlatadi? Asosan shu sabablarga ko'ra. Yes.
Do you have any concerns? Well, the short answer is yes, quite likely you would be somewhat concerned because we don't know the financial standing of the freight forwarder and possibly the reputation of the freight forwarder. Your goods are very valuable. Your goods could be worth $10,000, $100,000, and you're handing these goods over to a freight forwarder, and in return, you're getting a piece of paper. So the question we would have as bankers is what is the reputation and the standing of the financial standing of the freight forwarder? Now, are some freight forwarders better than others? The simple answer to that is we look more favorably upon freight forwarders that are part of the FIATA Association. And the reason for that is because the FIATA members have to meet minimum qualifying standards. There is compensation in place in the event that there is a problem. And so it tends to be that the large international freight forwarders, multinational freight forwarders, are FIATA members. So we can look more favorably upon FIATA than the small one-man, two-man freight forwarder operation. Check, boss.
Ekspeditorlik xizmatlari bu asosan ishonarlimi degan savollar berishim mumkin yoki qanaqadir e'tirozlaring bormi bo'lishi mumkin? Albatta bo'lishi mumkin, chunki ekspeditorlar har xil bo'lishi mumkin. O'sha ishonchli yoki ishonchsiz, chunki aytaylik $10,000 yoki $20,000, $30,000 yoki $100,000 mahsulotni ekspeditorga topshirib va uni evaziga biz oddiy bitta qog'oz olyapmiz. O'shaning uchun bu ozgina ishonchsiz bo'lishi mumkin, lekin o'sha FIATA organizatsiya, FIATA talablariga javob beradigan, ya'ni FIATA ekspeditorlik xizmatlariga, ekspeditorlik standartlariga javob beradigan agar ekspeditorlar bo'lsa, ularga bemalol ishonishimiz mumkin, chunki ular o'sha kerakli standartlarga javob beradi va jahon tan olingan ekspeditorlar hisoblanadi.
Thank you. So the final question was full set and clean and on board. Well, full set. In order to have control over the underlying goods, you need to have all of the originals, and bills of lading or multimodal transport documents generally issued in sets of 3. You need to have all 3 because any one of the originals can be used to clear the goods. If you only have 2 originals and you don't have the 3rd original, the question will be, well, where is the 3rd original? Because the 3rd original could be used to clear the goods, and that basically means that the other 2 originals are worthless. So we need to have a full set of original bills of lading or full set of original multimodal transport documents to have control over the goods. We also look at the second one, that clean. That means that there are no clauses on the bill of lading or multimodal transport document that indicate that there is any damage to the goods or to the packaging to the goods. Obviously, again, if the bank is taking these goods as security in a transaction, it will only want to accept goods that are in good condition, not damaged. So if a shipping company receives goods and they're damaged, they will write a clause on the bill of lading indicating that the goods are damaged or the packaging is damaged, and that is not acceptable to the bank as security for a transaction. So consequently, when we call for bills of lading in our LCs, we call for a clean bill of lading. So that means no clauses on the bill of lading regarding damage to the goods or the packaging. And the last one, on board, that just indicates that the goods have actually been shipped. The opposite to on board is received for shipment. That means they've been received by the carrier but not yet shipped. Now, in some parts of the world, received for shipment could mean that the goods may sit on a wharf for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks before they get shipped, exposed to the elements, exposed to the sun, exposed to theft, exposed to anything that might happen to them, which is obviously not desirable. You would rather that the goods are already shipped. So again, the reason the bank calls for on board is so that the goods are actually already in transit, already shipped on board the vessel. Shakboz?
Uchinchi oxirgi savolimizda bo'lganda bizga o'sha clean, full set, ya'ni on board 3 ta terminni ishlatgandik. Birinchisi o'sha full setdan boshlasak, ikkinchi terminimizda bu full set degan nimani ma'noni anglatishi, bu o'sha hamma olinadigan hujjatlar, transport hujjatlari bizda asl nusxada hujjatlar bo'lishi kerak. Va tekshirib olgan paytingizda hamma hujjatlar bizda bo'lishi kerak, чтобы bank o'sha mahsulotlarni ustidan boshqaruvi o'z qo'liga kiritishi uchun. Va undan tashqari clean bo'lsa, clean deganimizda bu o'sha mahsulotlar hech qanaqangi zarar ko'rmasdan ham yoki aytaylik korobkada keladigan narsalar korobkasi kirmasdan yoki yashik bo'lsa yashigi buzilmasdan o'sha keladigan hamma hujjatlar hammasi konkretno berilgan aytaylik nimalarda kelishi kerak, ya'ni hech qanaqa zarar yetkazmasdan kelishi kerak. Va undan tashqari on board nima degan ma'noni anglatadi? On board degani o'sha mahsulotlar bortda, ya'ni mahsulotlar o'zi yo'lga chiqilgan. Mahsulotlar albatta yetib kelmagan bo'lishi mumkin, lekin mahsulotlar albatta yo'lga chiqqan bo'lishi kerak. O'sha jo'natayotgan transport kompaniyasi mahsulotlarni o'sha yo'lga chiqargan bo'lishi kerak. Bu o'sha on board ma'nosini anglatadi. Yes, Roger.
Thank you very much. So just in summary, we already have covered this. It's a receipt for the goods, a contract of carriage, and a document of title, the functions of a bill of lading. Then just a summary table, which is useful because we're interested in title and control. Ideally, we would like to have both. A bill of lading can provide you with both title and control. Control certain conditions. Those conditions are a full set of original blank endorsed bills of lading. So full set, we said, to have control, and negotiable blank endorsed. Exactly the same for multimodal transport documents. We can, as long as we have a full set, blank endorsed, then we are able to have title and control. Way bills. Now we know way bills are not documents of title. So unfortunately, we don't have legal title with a way bill, but through the document itself, but we can look at other ways of getting title. What we will do is to control the goods, is to have the goods consigned to a bank in the import country, to the LC issuing bank, most likely. Freight forwarders receipts, unfortunately, they're not documents of title. Do they provide control? Well, they don't really provide control, but we will look favorably upon freight forwarders receipts issued by FIATA, because we know FIATA is a large international organization and the members have to abide by the rules and regulations. So we will look favorably upon FIATA freight forwarders receipts. Road and rail receipts, unfortunately, not documents of title, and they provide no control. So they don't really add much value from the bank's point of view to the transaction, from a security point of view. Then we have charter party bill of lading. They're documents of title, yes, but they provide ineffective control. And the reason for that is that in many cases, the charter party, the person chartering the vessel, is either the importer or the exporter. And then if you think about that, if it's the importer or the exporter who is chartering the vessel, then the bank can hardly say they have control over the underlying goods, because as charter party, they could easily redirect the goods or just take them to another location, and the bank would not be able to stop that from happening. So you need to be cautious where trade transactions involve charter party bills of lading. Often these transactions are used because they're large, high value transactions can turned out to be fraudulent transactions. So you need to be very cautious when agreeing to accept a charter party bill of lading as security over the underlying goods. So Shahbaz, back to you. You're on mute, Shahbaz.
Savdo hujjatlarini hozir ko'rib o'tamiz. Har bitta agar bizga o'sha bank sifatida bizga boshqaruvni beradimi, ya'ni mahsulotlar ustidan boshqaruvni qo'lga ola olamizmi yoki yo'q, va undan tashqari o'sha title, ya'ni bu qanaqadir mulkka egalik qilish hujjati uchun bu hujjati bo'la oladimi yo'qmi? O'sha birinchisi bu bill of lading, ya'ni mol mulk bilan keladigan yuk bilan keladigan hujjat hisoblanadi. Bu albatta hujjat sifatida kiradi va bankka o'sha boshqarish nimasini bera oladi, va undan tashqari multimodal transport hujjatlari albatta bu ham bo'la oladi va bank bu orqali yuklarni o'sha mahsulotlarni boshqarishi mumkin. Waybill, ya'ni ya'ni yo'l varaqalari, bular albatta hujjat sifatiga kelmaydi, lekin ba'zi vaziyatlarda o'sha bank bu orqali o'sha boshqaruvni o'zi qo'liga olishi mumkin. Ekspeditorlik o'sha beradigan kvitantsiyalari bu hujjatga kirmaydi, lekin agar o'sha FIATA ekspeditorlari bo'lsa, bank mahsulotlar ustidan boshqaruv olishi mumkin va har xil kvitansiyalar bular hujjatga kirmaydi va hech qanaqa kontrol qila olmasligi ham mumkin. va undan tashqari o'sha charter party, ya'ni uchinchi ya'ni kargolar beradigan hujjatlar albatta bu hujjatga kiradi, lekin kontrol unaqangi yaxshi bo'lmasligi mumkin. Yes, Roger.
Right, thank you. So now let's look at how the bank takes the goods as security, not just possession of the documents of title, but through a pledge. Now, a pledge is delivery of goods or documents of title of the goods to the lender bank in consideration of loan financing through constructive possession, not physical possession, but constructive. Required goods title to be returned upon discharge or repayment. So there's an implied power of sale in the event of default, and the bank has no legal or equitable interest in the goods. In other words, the bank does not have to register a mortgage or does not have to protect the goods in any way, is not responsible for the goods, but has the benefit of taking the goods if it chooses to do so. So the pledge is enshrined in the standard documentation that you should have with all of your customers. When you offer trade facilities, you should have standard terms and conditions. And one of the standard terms and conditions is that the goods being imported or exported are pledged to the bank. Shakboz?
Keyingi slaydimizda o'sha mahsulotlar xavfsizlik uchun ishlatilishi uchun bizga bu o'sha garov bo'ladi, ya'ni pledge bu garov hisoblanadi va unda qanaqangi funksiyalari bor buni. Bu albatta mahsulotlar to'liq vaqtida yetkazib berish uchun bu garov bo'lishi kerak albatta, ya'ni bu albatta garantirованиya qilingan bo'lishi kerak. O'sha aytaylik konstruktiv egalikni o'z qo'liga olish uchun konstruktiv egalik albatta talab qilinadi o'sha mahsulotlar berilishi uchun, o'sha berilgan hujjatlar uchun, hujjatlar berilgan hujjatlar evaziga. O'sha sukut bo'yicha sotuvning taxminiy kuchi albatta o'z ichiga oladi bu va undan tashqari tovarlarga qonuniy yoki teng huquqli qiziqish yo'qligini albatta bildirish kerak. Ya'ni biz mahsulotlarni albatta o'sha qanaqadir transport kompaniyalari yoki kargolar orqali eksport yoki import qilayotgan paytimizda o'sha bilishimiz kerak, чтобы bu kompaniyalar o'sha mahsulotlarga, ya'ni tovarlarga qonuniy yoki teng huquqli qiziqishi, qanaqadir boshqa qiziqishlari yo'q bo'lmasligi uchun. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. So constructive possession is through bills of lading themselves. As long as the bank has a full set endorsed in blank, that is constructive possession. Airway bills, we know it's not a document of title, but we've talked before about consigning to the issuing bank. Warehouse warrants is another way in which banks control goods and take goods as security, where the goods are actually warehoused in the bank's name. It's often the case in a structured trade finance transaction that the goods are actually warehoused in the bank's name. So the bank then has control and the warehouse warrants are issued in the bank's name. And as I just mentioned a few moments ago, most banks have a general terms and conditions, general facility agreement, which include clauses to expressly secure for the bank pledges on goods and or title documents. Thank you, Shakboz.
O'sha garov sifatida biz qanaqangi hujjatlarni ishlatish mumkin? Bunda ko'rib o'tishimiz mumkinki, o'sha konstruktiv egalik qilish uchun bu albatta birinchisi kiradi o'sha yukka qo'shib beriladigan hujjat. Albatta butun o'sha mulkka egalikni ko'rsatadi va mulkka egalik qilish huquqini beradi va undan tashqari o'sha havodan keladigan anaqa yo'l varaqalari bu albatta hech qanaqa egalikni bermasligi mumkin, lekin o'sha konstruktiv egalikni qo'lga kiritish mumkin, hech qanaqa hujjat bo'lmasa ham. Va undan tashqari o'sha ombordagi turadigan orderlar va undan tashqari o'sha ko'pchilik banklar ko'pincha general trade facility agreement, ya'ni bu aytiladi o'sha umumiy savdo qulayliklari shartnomasini o'sha shartnomasi bo'ladi ko'pchiligida. Ularda aytishadi o'sha qoidalar, ya'ni qanaqa qilib turib o'sha garovlarni, ya'ni mahsulotlarni saqlash qoidalari albatta bunda ko'rsatib o'tilgan bo'ladi.
Then we have hypothecation. Hypothecation is an agreement to give a charge over the goods or the documents of title to the goods which are not in the bank's possession. The owner undertakes to give possession of the goods when called to do so, or to surrender the proceeds of sale. So an example of this is the trust receipt. So a trust receipt works in such a way that when goods are released, documents of title are released to the customer, the importer, he signs a trust receipt, and that trust receipt confirms that he will hold the goods to the bank's order and will either return the goods or will account to the bank for the sales proceeds once the goods are sold. So effectively, this instrument extends the bank's title, ownership of the goods until such time as it receives repayment from the importer. Shakboz?
Ya'ni yana bu mahsulotlarning o'sha xavfsizlik bo'lishi uchun hypersection, ya'ni shunaqangi shartnoma borki, o'sha mahsulotlarni ustidan egalikni, ya'ni boshqaruvni qo'lga beradi va o'sha mahsulotlar, o'sha hujjatlar yoki mahsulotlarga o'sha bankni egaligi bo'lmaydi bunda. Va undan tashqari ko'pincha o'sha bank o'sha hujjat nimalarning egasi, egalik qilayotgan odam va o'z zimmasiga ko'pincha oladi, o'sha egalikni o'z zimmasiga oladi, mahsulotlarning ustidan egalikni o'z zimmasiga oladi. Bunga misol qilib aytaylik, o'sha ishonchlilik kvitansiya shakli masalan bunga misol bo'ladi. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. So I think we've already covered this. It's an agreement, trust receipt between lender and borrower by which the lender gives up possession of the goods without abandoning title, and the borrower agrees to hold the goods in trust for the lender, and if the goods are sold, to turn the proceeds over to the lender in settlement of the debt. In the event of liquidation or bankruptcy, the goods would not form part of the company's assets, provided they are clearly identifiable, because they are still owned by the bank. So just a word of caution there. Of course, if it's raw materials and raw materials are then used in a manufacturing process, you would not be able to go and reclaim the goods because they would have been used in the manufacturing process. But for finished goods, a trust receipt is a very effective way of extending the bank's legal title over the goods up until the point that it gets repaid. Thank you, Shakboz. You may be on mute.
Bu slaytimizda o'sha ishonch kvitansiya shakli qanaqa bo'lishini aytib o'tganmiz. Ya'ni bu ishonch kvitansiya shakli o'sha qarz beruvchi va qarz oluvchi o'rtasida tuzilgan shartnoma kreditor tovarlar egalik qilishdan voz kechadi va mulk huquqidan voz kechish va qarz oluvchi tovarni saqlashga rozilik beradi. Qarz beruvchiga ishonch va agar tovar ayirboshlash uchun sotilsa, qarzni to'lashda qarz beruvchiga beriladi. Bu o'sha ishonch kvitantsiyasi va undan tashqari tugatilgan yoki bankrot bo'lgan taqdirda tovar bo'lmaydi. Ular aniq bo'lgan taqdirda kompaniyalar aktivlarining bir qismini tashkil etadi, identifikatsiya qilish mumkin va chunki ular hali bankka tegishli hisoblanadi. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. So in summary, sorry, one more slide after this. Goods as security. When you think about using goods as security, you should think about things such as marketability. Will it be easy to resell the goods or the materials to somebody else? Perhaps if they're branded, it will not be easy to do that. So are they generic in nature? So are they easily sold to somebody else, an alternative buyer? Obsolescence. How long are the goods going to be have value? Because quickly these days things change and goods can become obsolete very quickly. Perishability, of course. Perishable goods may only last a few weeks or months before their value declines. Packing and storage, goods may require special packaging and storage, refrigerated storage perhaps for certain types of goods, or other types of special storage facilities for goods, if you take possession of them, can be expensive. Is the price realistic? Does the price represent the market value of the goods, or are the prices volatile? Are the prices going up or the prices going down? Are there any restrictions on the import and export of these goods? You know, there's a lot of government involvement these days, intervention in international trade with tariffs and bans, etc. So with a trade war going on, this is also very relevant, import-export restrictions. And then, of course, as we've talked before, goods must be insured. Shahboz?
Oxirida xulosa qilib aytganda, quyidagi mulohazalarni olishimiz mumkin. Ya'ni bu o'sha mahsulotlarni, ya'ni xavfsizlik sifatida mahsulotlarni o'zimizga olayotgan paytimizda biz bilishimiz kerakki, o'sha mahsulotlar quyidagi kategoriyalarga javob berish kerak. Birinchisi o'sha sotuvchanlik. Bundan tashqari eskirganlik, o'sha eskirgan bo'lmasligi kerak, tez buzilmaydigan bo'lishi kerak va qadoqlash va saqlash. Va undan tashqari ularning narxi o'sha realistikmi yoki yo'qmi? Va undan tashqari o'sha ya'ni tendensiyalar, ya'ni tendensiyada bo'ladimi har doim? Import va eksport cheklovlarini ko'rishimiz kerak va undan tashqari sug'urtani ham ko'rib o'tishimiz kerak. Yes, Roger.
Thank you. Marine insurance. Goods have to be insured, and the general standard insurance requirement is Institute Cargo Clauses A, which stands for all risks, Institute War Clauses, Institute Strike Clauses. Institute All Risks covers accidental loss or damage, general average, fire and smoke damage, and damage during loading, discharge, or transshipment of the goods. Of course, the insurance company needs to be reputable and acceptable to the bank, and the bank should be nominated as loss payee. Shahboz? Mute again, I think, Shahboz.
Transport risklarini kamaytirish uchun biz quyidagi narsalarni qilishimiz kerak. O'sha birinchisi o'sha marine insurance, ya'ni o'sha dengizdagi sug'urtalar, ya'ni sug'urtalangan bo'lishi kerak. O'sha mahsulotlar albatta quyidagi risklarni hisobga olgan holda sug'urtalangan bo'lishi kerak. O'sha birinchisi o'sha kargodagi qoidalar va undan ikkinchisi bu har xil urushlar bo'lib qolishi mumkin. Undan tashqari har xil o'sha portlashlar yoki shunga o'xshagan narsalar bo'lsa, ularni oldini olish uchun amal qilish kerak va undan tashqari har xil aytaylik institutdagi qonun qoidalar bo'lsa, aytaylik har xil o'sha qo'qqisdan bo'lib qoladigan mahsulotlarga zarar yetkazish yoki yong'in bo'lishi yoki har xil aytaylik mahsulotlarga tutilgan mahsulotlar ketishi o'sha mahsulotlarni aytaylik konteynerlarga solayotgan paytdagi bo'ladigan zararlar mahsulotga ketishi mumkin. O'shanga har doim biz ishonch hosil qilishimiz kerak. Sug'urtalayotgan kompaniyamiz quyidagi risklarni ham o'z ichiga olishi. Yes.
Thank you. So this is the last slide. So the summary the key benefits of using transport documents. Transport documents or goods can provide additional security to a transaction. Additional security, so we don't say we just use the goods, we also take other forms of security, but this is additional security. Transport documents can be documents of title, which is good if they are. Bills of lading, multimodal transport documents. They can provide control over the underlying goods through possession of the documents or through consignment of the goods. They're easily pledged to the bank by the borrower. Trust receipt can extend the title when goods are released or documents are released. They provide third-party confirmation that goods have been shipped, which is an important risk mitigant for the bank, proof that shipment has occurred. And they provide visibility in details of the underlying transaction. And of course, if we use them in conjunction with a trade transaction, they will help reduce the risk of fraud. So all in all, benefits for the bank and benefits for the customer in using transport documents as a key structure in part of a trade transaction. Thank you, Shakboz.
Oxirida xulosa qilib aytganda, asosiy transport hujjatlarini asosiy foydalaridan bo'lib, bizga quyidagilarni o'z ichiga oladi. Bular albatta bitim uchun qo'shimcha xavfsizlikni ta'minlash mumkin. Sarlavha hujjatlari, masalan, aytaylik, yukka egalik hujjatlari bo'lishi mumkin. Asosiy tovarlar ustidan nazoratni ta'minlay oladi. Qarz oluvchi tomonidan bankka osongina garov ta'minlay oladi va ishonchli kvitansiya tovarlar chiqarilganda mol-mulk huquqini uzaytirishi mumkin. Tovarlar bo'lganligi to'g'risidagi uchinchi tomonidan tasdiqlanish jo'nata oladi va ikki tomonga ham bu foyda. Va undan tashqari asosiy operatsiyalarni ko'rish tafsilotlarini taqdim etish mumkin va firibgarlikni xavfni kamaytiradi. Yes, Roger.
Good. Well, that concludes today's session. Sorry we ran a little over time. We were a little late starting. Are there any questions from anybody?
Agar qanaqadir savollaring bo'lsa, bemalol savollar berishlari mumkin.
Quite a few people have dropped out.
Yes, I guess no questions at all.
Okay, well, thank you very much again, Shakboz, for your support. I think we have one more session scheduled for next week, same time.
Yes.
I believe that's
So,
on trade.
yes,
loans.
so, okay, so one of the participants have been asking that I will actually send them the email. He is actually requesting the email version, I mean the PDF version of the presentation by email, so I will send them.
Yes, okay.
No
problem.
Okay.
Good. Well, thanks everybody for your time today.
Okay. Okay,
Have a great
thank you.
weekend, and we'll
You
catch
too.
up again next week.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.